Welcome back to another edition of This Week in Israel, where we talk about all the hot topics happening in the country and that affect the country that we all care so much about. So we'll start with an invitation that was received by President Isaac Herzog to meet President Joe Biden in the United States and also address a joint session of Congress. The visit is expected to take place in July, but it is also comes under scrutiny as this is the second invitation and the second visit that President Herzog will be taking to the United States, while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who actually has significantly more power than the president, has yet to receive any invitations, as President Biden said earlier in the year with regard to judicial reform. So it's a little bit tension filled. The U.S. House of Representatives, on the other hand, overwhelmingly passed legislation this week mandating the Biden administration to appoint a special envoy for the Abraham Accords. The bill was co-sponsored by Representatives Richie Torres and Michael Lawler from New York, one Republican and one Democrat. And it shows the continued bipartisan support that exists in the United States for Israel and a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. The State Department appointee would have the rank of an ambassador and would therefore require Senate confirmation, but it is a post designed to continue cooperation in this region of the world with Israel and its Arab neighbors. So it has been successful up until this point. In fact, the Defense Ministry on Wednesday announced a record $12.56 billion in defense exports during the year of 2022. From Israel, and 25% of those exports actually went to Arab countries, went to countries that we now have peace with. So the Abraham Accords are proving to be successful, not just in defense, but in all industries, and trade has increased significantly with our neighbors. So that's good news all around. In other news, Israel is set to greenlight the building of 4,500 housing units in settlements throughout Judea and Samaria. A White House National Security Council spokesperson said the U.S. has been clear that advancing settlements is an obstacle to peace and the achievement of a two-state solution. But this comes after the prime minister had delayed building a very controversial building plan, and the 4-month moratorium on these plans is up at the end of June, at which point the committee that is actually run through the Defense Ministry will reconvene to discuss building these plans. When they last met, they greenlit over, about 10,000 units, which was probably the most in at any point throughout their meeting. So there's significant controversy over these plans, but in truth, it's the prerogative of the Israeli government, as it is a domestic matter, and the international entities that are saying that this is an impediment to peace are not as in tune or are not nearly as vocal when significant rises in terrorism happen in Israel, and they don't attribute that to a challenge with achieving peace in the region. So it's hot topic times, but it's naturally the natural progression of communities growing throughout Israel, and it should not come under such international scrutiny. In other news, Palestinians clashed with Israeli troops in Nablus overnight in the camp of Shechem Thursday, as the military entered the northern West Bank city to demolish the home of a Palestinian gunman who was accused of killing a soldier last year, Idil Baruch. One Palestinian was killed and others were wounded during the clashes, and no Israeli casualties were reported. As we continue to fight all these challenges, both domestically, Israel's Rafael Defense Contractor, which is also the company that developed Iron Dome and many tremendous defensive systems and weapons technology, has developed what they call the Skysonic Interceptor missile, which is designed to counteract hypersonic missiles that are targeting Israel. This announcement comes very shortly after Iran earlier this month claimed it had developed a new hypersonic missile that would be designed to attack Israel. So the design is set to be showcased at the Paris Defense Air Show next week, but it is a great step as Rafael continues to develop defensive technologies that keep Israelis safe. And lastly, on less good news, the volume of home sales dropped by 55% year over year in April, falling nearly to the lowest levels in 20 years, which means that there is significantly less transactions of homes, people buying homes in Israel as prices continue to rise, and borrowing costs also climb. So although over recent months housing inflation has fallen from 20% to 11%, it's still double the rate of general inflation in the country. An average home cost is about 2 million shekel, about $550,000 today. And if you are closer to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, those prices are closer to 3 million shekel, which is about $830,000. So God willing, a lot going on in Israel, a lot to talk about, and we should hopefully only hear good times and peaceful times here in Israel. And we'll see you next week. Shabbat shalom.